Since Todd Boehly's acquisition of Chelsea Football Club in the summer of 2022, Chelsea fans have felt a sense of frustration as the club failed to meet expectations and the project of signing young talent has resulted in an inexperienced squad who haven't been able to fight for Europe. However, recently things have changed. Chelsea finally look like they have an identity and a plan out on the field, and the squad seems to be clicking. In this video, we look at why this is, analysing Pochettino's change of Marc Cucurella's role in the tactic and the impact it has had. We also discuss how immense Cole Palmer has been this season and why Nicolas Jackson has actually had a good first season with the Blues. So, are Chelsea finally back? Alright, let's talk about Chelsea then, Harry. Let's talk about their recent form and how they've managed to transform their season in recent weeks. I want to start by showing you the Premier League table since the 1st of March. I think that shows really Chelsea's best period, the last 10 matches. In that time, Chelsea have amassed 19 points, scored 28 goals, and find themselves 5th in the table. Now, obviously, this isn't exactly representative because Bournemouth are 3rd. And you wouldn't say they're a Champions League winning side, or maybe you would. I'm not sure how much faith you have in Iraola's Bournemouth, but it does show Chelsea massively improved in recent months.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's been a few tweaks off the pitch and on the pitch, and they seem to be really paying off. And as you say, it looks like a Chelsea side that are playing freely. There doesn't feel any pressure. There doesn't, this isn't the Chelsea side that we've seen struggle for the last year and a half. This is a side that knows how to play football. And who would have thought it, eh? You give a quality manager, quality footballers, it had to work one day, and it does feel like the tide is starting to turn for Pochettino, starting to turn for Chelsea, and they've put together a really good run at form when it matters most as this season comes to an end.
It's worth noting as well for reference that that same time period puts Manchester United as 15th, I believe, in the Premier League table. So just shows everything. But Chelsea, have done very well recently. And if you look at those 10 matches, if you look at their most recent form, they've been really strong. Obviously, you've only got one loss in those 10 matches. That was, of course, to Arsenal, and that was a very disappointing game. You've also got draws to Burnley and Sheffield United, and I think Brentford as well in there potentially. I can't remember what the other draw was, but Chelsea, they've done well. It's a bit frustrating though that I think that, and obviously the Villa draw as well, but I think that Arsenal loss is a real big blemish on what's otherwise been quite a good record.
Yeah, that was a really interesting one because, as you say, I mean, Chelsea guarantee you goals, 6-0 winning against Everton. Everyone thought maybe that's the moment. Then went and got smashed 5-0 at the Emirates. That was really bad. And to be honest, I thought after that Chelsea would have been a bit poor and would have seen this season out and probably end up finishing 10th like they love to. But that was, to be honest, I think the response actually is quite impressive because for a side who are meant to be low on confidence and really struggling right now, because they are, it was a really good response. I mean, the draw at Villa was unlucky. I mean, a controversial goal at the end, and to be honest, to go, I think, because that was what happened, wasn't it? 5-0 to Arsenal, then 2-0 down at half-time to Villa. It looked terrible for Chelsea. That second half was a really good response. There was a slight change that paid off. And then the last two games have been absolutely brilliant. Huge win against Tottenham, who, yes, they're struggling right now, but they're still a very, very good football team. And to beat your rivals is always a good result. And then to absolutely thump at West Ham was also really good for Chelsea. So, as you say, a really good run of 10 games, one blemish there, which was the Arsenal one, but that was a really weird result.
Yeah, I think that segues us quite nicely there. You talking about that second half in Aston Villa into what the broader topic is for today's video, and that's how Chelsea have changed it in the last 3 games, what they've done tactically. So on screen now, I'm going to show Chelsea's shape in the last 3 games since that half-time change in Aston Villa. So it looks much more aggressive, much more attacking, and much more representative of what we see across the Premier League right now, Marc Cucurella being the figure point, because what Marc Cucurella does now is he inverts into midfield. If you watch Chelsea, I implore you just to watch Marc Cucurella's movement, because now in build-up, it's a 3-2-4-1. Now, this has many impacts. One, it means that we don't have Marc Cucurella at left-back, which, obviously, he's a left-back, but he is a little bit prone to defensive mistakes and mishaps, which I think having him further up the field means that if he does make stupid tackles or mistakes, they're less likely to cost us goals. The other thing it does is it opens up these wide channels. So if you look at the space then it creates in the wide areas, Badiashile and Chalobah, mainly Badiashile, now have that wide ball down the line. Now what this does, it brings our wingers a lot more into the game, and I think that was very prevalent in all of the matches we've played so far, but particularly the Tottenham game, where a lot of our joy came down those flanks. Now, I know Tottenham are the perfect team to play that against because their wing-backs like to invert and they end up in a very messy rest defence. But we really saw in that game how dangerous Mykhailo Mudryk could be if we utilise his strengths. And that all comes from Cucurella inverting and the space opening up in those wide areas to play balls into the channels and pick out our wingers in good positions.
Well, that's the thing. You talk about the long balls there. Look at the West Ham game. 2 goals scored from long balls. The first one was Chalobah's ball into Madueke, where he then
they're a bit more direct, aren't they? But again, that I guess you could.
And then Caicedo was the same. It was that that ball through their defence into the winger, and we found a goal from it. But I mean,
we've got a very pacey front line. That's something to note. Jackson, Mudryk, Madueke, all very quick players. I think the other thing then we can say in this shape is that it allows Conor Gallagher to push forward and. In that role. Now, obviously, you would hope that'll be Enzo Fernandez potentially once we've got him back from injury, but either of those players are quite good creators. But the reason Connor's so good in that role is because he's a pressing machine. So he's able to just run at people, but also he has a bit more freedom, which means that he can go and link up with wide players because he's not restricted as a defensive midfielder. Because Cucurella's coming into there. So he goes forward, and we saw it a lot, again, in the Tottenham game, where him and Mudryk were linking up on the left-hand side, creating chances. It also means Palmer's got a lot more freedom, because when you've got 2 attacking midfielders in there, 2 free-roaming 8s, it means that Conor Gallagher's pushing and pressing players and pressing onto their back line, gives Palmer a lot more licence to just sort of run around and go pick up the ball here and get involved over there. And I really like that freedom it brings to Cole Palmer's game. I think the other thing to note, something less tactical, but in the last 3 games, is that this is the first time Chelsea have had a consistent starting 11. If you look at the team throughout the last 3 games, the only change we saw between the Tottenham game and the West Ham game was Alfie Gilchrist coming out the side and Thiago Silva going in, which saw Chalobah move across. Other than that, it was exactly the same side, and I think that's what we've really missed. If you look at players like Mudryk and Madueke, they're clearly thriving because they're being given a chance. They're being given a consistent run of games where they've got time to prove themselves, and it's clearly benefiting them. I mean, Noni Madueke's gone from looking like quite a raw, unfinished player to looking very dangerous in the last 3 games, and especially against West Ham, I thought he was one of our best players. Mudryk, very similar. Now, Mudryk still looks really unpolished, but the raw attributes in Mykhailo Mudryk make him such a dangerous footballer for me, such a dangerous footballer. And so, tactically, Chelsea look really a much better side in the last 3 games. And it annoys me because Pochettino used this shape in pre-season. We looked really good in pre-season and people were excited about what was to come for Chelsea. But a couple injuries occurred. We saw players like Fofana get injured, and I think Christopher Nkunku got injured. And there was a few like that. And Poch decided to shy away from this tactic and change it all up. And then throughout this season, what we've had is so many different tactics, but we had at the start of the season when Chilwell was fit, or when Chilwell's been fit, we've still had a situational back 3, but it's only when we're camped in opposition half and the left wing back would go forward or the right wing back would go forwards. Instead here, by inverting into midfield early, you create that 3-2-4-1 shape immediately. That's how we look coming out of defence and from goal kicks. So I think that makes us. I really like that shape. There's a reason that Pep Guardiola, that Mikel Arteta, everyone's using it or has used it in recent seasons. It's very useful. And it does benefit one man in particular, Nicolas Jackson, because it means he's not dropping in. He's playing on the shoulder of the last man, and he can make runs in behind. Now, I want to talk about Jackson, and more specifically, first, I want to talk about Chelsea's goals this season, because it has been a much better season for Chelsea. They ranked 6th in the Premier League for goals scored this campaign. That's 70 goals. When you compare that to the 22-23 campaign for Chelsea, where they only scored 38 goals total, which was almost, I think it was less than Erling Haaland got last season, wasn't it? Or something awful.
It was really bad.
Either way, it's terrible. I think we ranked 16th in the Premier League for goals scored last season. This season up to 6th. Now, we're going to talk about why that is, and a lot of that is Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer, 21 goals this season. Harry, how much of an impact has he had on the Chelsea team?
I mean, he's been absolutely brilliant, and I'm not surprised. He is a very, very good talent, and I think City were suffering from having too many world-class players, so they gave us one, which was really nice of them. But he has been absolutely phenomenal, and yes, Pittle might go, he scores penalties, I don't care.
So does Haaland.
Exactly. If you take penalties away from every elite player, you take penalties away from Kane, the likes, their goals are going to look worse. But also, it's not that easy to,
Salah especially.
You still have to take a penalty.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, he's been phenomenal. Not only with his goals, though, with what his goal contributions, and that has massively helped other players like your Jacksons and your Maduekes to get on the score sheet as well. And it's what you do when you put players, when you play players with better players, they will get better.
Yeah.
By playing Madueke and Jackson with Palmer, you're going to improve those two. You're going to improve their numbers because they're playing with better quality players. And I mean, it was a brilliant deal from Chelsea, one of the very few they did over the summer. And it's really paying
I think it was £40 million for Cole
absolute
Palmer.
deal. I'd have paid 80. I'd have paid double it. He's absolutely phenomenal. He's a world-class player.
I think he's had a really, really strong campaign. But second on the list for Chelsea this season with 13 goals is Nicolas Jackson. Now,
you've got to stop the hate. Got to stop the hate.
I want to talk about that because I think Nicolas Jackson this season has quite unfairly received a lot of backlash. And I think a lot of it's to do with the standards, both in the Premier League now and at Chelsea in particular. Now, Chelsea have very high standards. They expect players to come in and do really well from the start. But 13 goals in the debut Premier League season for a 22-year-old striker that we bought for 30 million from Villarreal, who had 2 seasons of professional football. When you consider all the context, I don't think Jackson's done as poorly as people are saying he has. I don't think he's done that badly. And there's so many attributes of Jackson's game which I think are really strong. I think his running is really good. His timing of the running behind is really good. There's a reason he's had so many chances this season. It's because he gets into really good positions. His timing and movement is up there with some of the best strikers in the league. The one thing Jackson needs to work on is finishing. And as demonstrated by the graphic on screen now, 13 goals this season from 18.16 expected goals. That is an underperformance of 5.16. Now, obviously, XG is quite I know a lot of people don't really like XG because it's it's unquantifiable, relatively stat. So it's an interesting one, but it does give you an idea of how many chances they have compared to how many chances they're putting in the back of the net. And clearly, Jackson isn't finishing enough of his chances, but that is coachable. He's got the raw attributes and clearly he's still got that self-belief that he can be a really elite striker. And finishing is, as I say, coachable, trainable. An elite forward coach, elite tacking coach can get the best out of Nicolas Jackson, I think. When I say that, I don't mean changing out the manager. I mean just bringing in a specialist to work with Jackson and teach him how to score. Teach him to score goals, because he is a really good player, I think. And I know he's received a lot of hate this season, but he has outperformed Rasmus Højlund. In a side that's supposedly worse, or was until they lost to United to Crystal Palace on Monday, and now everything's about the Glazers again. Not Ten Hag though, from certain people, which is interesting. And then you've got Darwin Núñez is on the same amount, I think, as Jackson this season, and again he cost Liverpool so much more money, has 2 seasons of Premier League football, but we don't see the same level of clowning on those sorts of players. It's weird to me as to why Jackson receives so much hate. And I understand he hasn't put away enough chances this season, but for me, I really like Nicolas Jackson. If we're going into next season and we're thinking about what sort of signings we'd make, I understand why people are saying a striker. I think we do need a striker, but we don't need an Osimhen. We don't need a Tony. I wouldn't mind a veteran striker who can provide competition and a nice option off the bench. But I really like Nicolas Jackson.
Yeah,
I really like him.
I think he's a very, very good player, and I had a conversation the other day, and Peter did say the reason, the main thing is that he scored 13 goals now, but he has missed so many chances this season. But you think back to the FA Cup semi-final, he could have easily won us that game against City, but he missed chance after chance, and I think that's really put. I think the one thing I love about Jackson, and you mentioned it there, is that self-confidence. We see. He has been clowned on all year, but how's he dealt with that? He's just got on with it and he's played his football. Obviously you've got that Premier League table from the start of March where Chelsea are 5th. Also at the start of March, or I think it might have been April, Jackson said, I know I've missed chances. He said in a Sky interview, I've known I've missed chances, but the goals are going to come. I am going to score. Lo and behold, what has he gone on done? He's scored loads of goals in his last few games, and I love that from him. And while you see, Chelsea examples in your Werner and even Havertz for a bit,
that's what I was going to say.
Even like Núñez, he's deleting all his Liverpool stuff from Instagram rather than getting on with it and scoring goals and things.
Yeah.
He's getting clowned on, so he's going to delete his media.
It's that difference in mentality. If you look at, even on the pitch, the demeanour of the players. When Werner misses a chance, his head drops. When Núñez misses a chance, he's throwing his arms around, he's frustrated, he's angry. When Jackson misses a chance, he picks his head up, he's ready to go again, and he's got that belief in himself. I think that given time, Nicolas Jackson could be an elite striker in the Premier League. He might not ever be a 30-goal-a-season striker.
I don't know. I think he could be.
We're setting unrealistic expectations of what we expect from players now because Haaland scores 35. Yes, Haaland scores 35. Nice.
Well,
but City have built a team that just generates him chances. If Jackson scores 20 goals a season in a team where you've got players like Palmer and Madueke who are also chipping in, I don't think that's a poor striker to have in an elite team. If Chelsea want to be an elite team, which you would expect, obviously, then I think Jackson could be the striker to be in the team forever.
I think it doesn't benefit him, and you know, because look at your Golden Boot winners, Haaland, Kane, Salah, they all take penalties. Jackson don't. If you'd given Jackson all of the penalties that Chelsea have had this year, because as I realised today, Chelsea have actually had a lot of penalties given to them, he'd have scored so many more goals. I think he's a very good. I mean, obviously, I know you mentioned as well about training his finishing, and I mean that's exactly it. It's his timing I think his timing of the run's good. It's the timing of the finishing. I think he's got a really good technique, but either he rushes it and sends it flying over or flying out of the stadium, or like in the FA Cup final where he just got through a goal and didn't actually shoot. That's why he gets clowned on, because what striker in the world gets through on goal and just doesn't kick the ball? But, I mean, that thing, he can learn on that.
It's final third decision-making, which is expected from a young player who's played La Liga football and only 2 years of it before coming over to the Premier League, and it's expected to just perform.
And the progress we've seen, I mean, the goal he scored against Tottenham, no silly business there. It fell to him and he just headed it, and that was a very smart finish to head it in the far corner. The West Ham game, he got through on goal, didn't fanny around, ran straight at the goal and put it past the goalkeeper. Didn't hesitate, didn't lash at it, you know, just placed it really nicely. And I think he's getting better at that. And again, it is that old thing. Chelsea start to play better with better players in the team, so the other players are going to thrive. And you know, I mean, like Trevor Chalobah. I don't think Trevor Chalobah is a top 6 quality centre half. You know, I mean, he's been immense. I love Trevor Chalobah. I think he's been phenomenal. But imagine what this team could be like when Fofana comes back and when Colwill comes back.
That's an if. I'm not sure if Fofana's ever going to play football again. He's had another setback on that injury, but. We've spoken a lot then about how the attacking impacts of inverting Marc Cucurella, but let's talk defensive, because since that second half change at Aston Villa, obviously we've spoken about the goals scored, but Chelsea have not conceded.
Yeah, and I mean...
Clean sheet against Tottenham, clean sheet second half against Villa, clean sheet against West Ham. Clearly, it just makes Chelsea a much more stable unit.
Because what you're doing is you are taking an erratic man in Marc Cucurella. He is very erratic. You tend to play left back. You'll find him up front in the 10th minute. He'll be at right back in the 15th. He's erratic. He moves around everywhere. So what do? You put him in a role that means he can move around everywhere. Yeah. He can be free. He can invert and run around and have a bit of a jolly up. Because at least when you do it tactically, people know where he's going to run around. Rather than, you know, halfway through the game, Silva goes, "Where's my left back?" and it turns out he's in the corner. You know, it's going to work. It works really well because you're managing to, kind of tone down a very erratic player. Because I think he's a good player. On the ball, he's a decent player and he's a decent defender. But by putting him in a role where he can be erratic and can make errors, it is massive. And I think the other thing that helps Chelsea out defensively is also you push Gallagher forward. And also, yes, that means he scores goals. But we know Conor Gallagher loves a stupid foul. By playing hard at the pitch, it means he makes that foul 20 yards further away from our goal. Yeah. And it's simple things like that. There's so many positives to this change. It just shores Chelsea up defensively massively.
Yeah, I think I owe Marc Cucurella a massive apology, really. And because I myself have had my frustrations with Cucurella, because I think he's, at times for Chelsea, given away really stupid fouls and penalties and has been at fault for a lot of goals we've conceded. But there is a reason that when Chelsea were looking at him and actually bought him in the summer of 2022, that Manchester City and Guardiola were looking at him. Because he is an elite fullback. There's a reason he looks so good in that Brighton side. Chelsea just never played to his strengths, never built a team that suits him. But now, Pochettino's found a role where he is perfect. And he does work really nicely in that role. So Chelsea do seem to be on the up and up. It seems to be a very positive time, I hope, for Chelsea. It's been a long, negative 2 years, but now it does seem to be slowly but surely coming back in favour for Chelsea. Let's talk the end of this season then, and let's have a look at the remaining fixtures. Chelsea have 3 games to play. This Saturday it is a away fixture against Nottingham Forest. Next Wednesday it is away at Brighton, and then on the final day of the season, the Sunday, it is at home to Bournemouth. Now, Chelsea, 3 games. Can Chelsea still get Europe?
Yeah, I think they definitely can. I mean, it's going to be tough because it relies on Newcastle dropping points, and that is, I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, if Tottenham, equally, this Tottenham fall off could be drastic, and they've got quite a tough run.
They'd need to lose every game, and Chelsea have to win every game.
Oh, no, to be honest, the form they're both in, I could see that happening, but I think Chelsea's going to be tough. Will Chelsea get you? Also, I know it depends on the winners and everything or what happens, but...
Well, so Chelsea is 7th right now. The permutations are, if Manchester United finish 8th but win the FA Cup, then Chelsea wouldn't get Europe in 7th. It's not impossible. It's not impossible.
It'd be so United to win the FA Cup but not finish 8th.
So Chelsea are on 54 points, level on points from Manchester United. Below them, ahead of them is Newcastle on 56, then it's Tottenham on 60. The frustration for me is that Chelsea have a game in hand on Aston Villa and are 13 points off. Now, if you take away the loss to Sheffield United, we lost them early in the season, didn't we? The loss to Nottingham Forest, the draw with Sheffield United and the draw with Burnley, that's 10 points Chelsea in the Champions League.
And then give us the winner.
Oh, no, obviously. Of course, yeah. Obviously, you can do this to any team, but I don't want to make some huge point, Chelsea deserve to be in the Champions League. They don't. We've not been good enough this year at times. But what I am saying is that Chelsea have the potential to be there. A few more results next season, and Chelsea are in the mix for Champions League football. That does not show what the same rhetoric that the media's been putting out this year, the same discourse around Chelsea Football Club, that it's all a shambles and they're the £1 billion bottle jobs. That just isn't the case.
Yeah, and I mean,
quite clearly, it's
perfectly. It feels like this is all going under the radar. I mean, I saw a 433 post that after the West Ham game on Sunday, it was like, where have Chelsea come from? It's like Chelsea have always had, Chelsea have always been able to do that. Like, I feel like, again, the Chelsea had helped themselves out because, like, the 6-0 win at Everton was quietened down by the 5-0 loss to Arsenal. And yes, I think that was a one-off really bad game because clearly the results before and after that game have shown that.
Yeah, there's a lot of mitigating circumstances.
You don't get Europe when you do things like that. You can't have one-off games where you draw Burnley, who have 10 men on the pitch.
But I do think the new tactic, if the squad can stay fit, where we have a consistent starting 11, then I think Chelsea are in a really good position next season. Yeah. And a bit of European football where we can have a breeding ground for young talents. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with Omari Hutchinson or Angelo, but if we've got Conference League, that's the perfect breeding ground for players like that to really thrive and then get a few first team minutes off the back of it. But it really does. I mean, the Premier League. But it does. Yeah. I think Chelsea have had a really positive season. For me, I think the board's ultimatum of Pochettino must get Europa League is absolutely stupid. And if the Chelsea board, unless we lose the final 3 games this season 5-0, the Chelsea board would be out of their mind to sack Pochettino right now, especially when the most likely replacement's Hans-Dieter Flick. Hansi Flick was really good at Bayern Munich. He won the Sextuple. Well done, mate. You won the Bundesliga and you had Robert Lewandowski scored enough goals in the Champions League. I don't think right now, though, he's an elite manager. You look at his time at Germany, it was woeful, and I have a lot of question marks around his ability anyway. I know he won a Sextuple, but again, that Bayern side was so dominant that it was difficult to not win a Sextuple with that team. I don't see a better option right now. I just want to see a bit of stability. Even if Pochettino doesn't get, even if we don't get Europe this year, it would be a shame because I want to see us in European football, of course. Yeah. But I think Pochettino deserves another year. If at the end of next season Chelsea have not got any better, I don't think it would be. I think it'd be a much better time to be looking at alternatives. Xabi Alonso might be available then. Now, I'm not saying it's very likely he's going to come to Chelsea, but people like that might well be available. This summer, there's just not many people available. Thiago Motta is going to Juventus. He would have been a nice option, but he's already going. That seems like a done deal there. I don't really look at Arne Slot going to Liverpool. It's a good appointment, but is it a quality appointment? It's a bit of a gamble. Ruben Amorim would be a bit of a gamble. I don't mind sticking with Pochettino right now. There's a lot of unknown in the Premier League. City are expected to lose their manager at some point in the next few years. You'd think Pep will leave. I could see that being next summer, or even a shock this summer, which would be fun. Liverpool have already lost their manager. Now, there's a lot of unknown there. United are crap. Tottenham, Postecoglou, there's a lot going on there because... I think Pochettino is a bit too idealist for the Premier League. He doesn't adapt. He's not very pragmatic. So it just seems to stay the same. And that means that now that opponents have figured him out, it's quite easy to beat him. So unless they have some sudden incredible evolution, I don't think they're going to be fighting for the top. So I think Chelsea would be putting themselves in a good position by holding on to Pochettino. I think it would be really stupid to sack Pochettino this summer. I think Chelsea fans need to understand where we are as a club right now. We're not going to be winning every game, but we have played really well recently, and there is clear signs that there is progress under Poch.
Yeah, and I think you got to look at the season as a whole, because if you'd told me 10 games in that we would be Carabao Cup finalists, FA Cup semi-finalists knocked out by Man City, and we would get Conference League football in the league, which, by the way, I've seen some people say they don't want Conference League, what's the point, it's a shit trophy. I don't care. It's Europe.
I do.
And also...
Who wants to win it?
Exactly what I'm saying.
We'll be the first club to win every trophy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It will give us an extra opportunity. Yes, people might not care because it's not a very good trophy. It's a trophy. We haven't won a trophy. I'd like to win a trophy. But if we get 7th in the league, Carabao Cup finalists, FA Cup semi-finalists, after what has been a shit year with the £1 billion bottle jobs, I will bloody take that season.
To be honest, I'd rather have Conference League than Europa League, I think.
Yeah.
Obviously, well, I don't know. I don't know if I do actually, but there's pros and cons to both. I think we can, obviously, yeah, we can, but as Liverpool proven this year, the Europa League is very difficult. The Conference League would be really nice to have what is a relatively easy competition. I mean, if Aston Villa haven't been particularly good in it and still look like they're going to win it, I mean, they might lose to Olympiacos, but like you see, West Ham won it last year, and I think we're loads better than that team. I wouldn't mind it as an option to give some of our young players opportunities next season. So I don't mind Europa League, Conference League, as long as we're in Europe. That'd be really good. Obviously, if United do win the FA Cup, then that is going to become a lot more difficult to do.
Keep on dreaming.
But yeah, United win the FA Cup does seem unrealistic at the moment, and I think we're going to talk about Pochettino's future now. And before that, I want to say the expected points table. Now, I know, again, a lot of people don't like these metrics, but it does have Chelsea 4th. And that says an awful lot, in my opinion, about how good this squad has been. Now, like I talk about Jackson's, underperformed expected goals. Chelsea as a team this season have underperformed XG by 6.23. And obviously that isn't all Jackson, 5.16, but because obviously, yes, I know there's only 1.0, but obviously some players like Cole Palmer have overperformed, so it's all relative. And Chelsea this season underperformed their expected points by 6.25. And obviously coupled with the fact that Aston Villa have massively overperformed, Tottenham have slightly overperformed, Chelsea just have not been quite there. There's been a few games where you just don't get that decisive goal. You look at the Aston Villa game, I think Chelsea deserved to win that game, and suddenly 5th place doesn't look unrealistic and we're ahead of Newcastle, but it just didn't materialise. It's very frustrating that Chelsea are in the position they're in. They should have won a lot more games this season, but for me, you're not going to find anyone better than Mauricio Pochettino right now. I think he deserves another season at Chelsea.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's the perfect man for the job right now, and that's because Chelsea are in a phase right now, as we've proved this season, where we're going to, it's going to be finishing in Europe in the league and then winning the odd trophy, like we could have done this year in the Carabao Cup, like we went deep in the FA Cup. But Poch is the perfect man for next season to get us in the top 4, to maybe win the Carabao Cup or the Conference League or the Euro or whatever in. If next year we get top 4, top 5 and we win a trophy, that's a step in. That's another positive. It's another step up. And to be honest, I'd happily take that. I really, really would take that season. And that's the thing. For me, Poch has shown this year, and Chelsea have shown this year, there's not been very many games where Chelsea have been played off the park. Yes, the Arsenal game recently, and yes, there's been a few more this season. But most of the games are the silly, stupid games that Chelsea shouldn't. I mean, leading twice at Bramall Lane and throwing away is inexcusable.
Yeah.
Drawing to 10-man Burnley, that's not being played off the park by those two teams. That is just really sloppy. Maybe a lack of experience, but again, comes down to that lack of quality.
Chelsea have really struggled to break down low blocks, but I do think that the evolution of the tactic will solve that. We'll see a lot against Nottingham Forest because they play with a low block, which obviously Tottenham don't. Tottenham have a very high line. Aston Villa have a very high line. West Ham don't have a line. So this will be really interesting to see how Nottingham Forest. West Ham are terrible. West Ham, unexpected points by the way, would be just above the relegation zone.
That's why Moyes is gone.
Which is what, a lot of people questioning, why is David Moyes gone? West Ham have played terrible foot this year and got away with individual quality, which is a topic for another video. Yeah. But Chelsea this season have done very well, and Nottingham Forest will beat them, I hope. Brighton, they've looked a mess this season, and then Bournemouth to finish the season.
Tough game.
Tough match. Bournemouth are quite a good side, but that is a game Chelsea should be winning. 9 points. Chelsea finish up on
63.
I don't think that's been a bad season, in my opinion.
No.
Now, whether that's Europe or not, we don't know. But I don't think that's been a bad season. If we win those final 3 matches this season, European football would be lovely. I think Chelsea have done well this season.
Yeah, same here. And I think, I mean, it's one of those. Would people look at it differently if we had won that Carabao Cup final, or if we'd got, if we won the FA Cup?
Yeah, because I mean, I've guaranteed you.
Exactly.
It would be lovely.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's all a thing of hindsight. I think Chelsea were a minute away from going to penalties in that Carabao Cup final, and if we win that, I think every fan and everyone else has a different outlook on the season.
Yeah, definitely. So that's everything, though, I think, for today's video. As always, make sure to get your thoughts in the comments below. I'm sure there's going to be lots of people, lots of Chelsea fans who agree, disagree, lots of other fans who agree, disagree with what we've said. Feel free to get your thoughts in the comments below. And yeah, that we do always enjoy having a discussion, a lively discussion down there about football. So get involved there. If you want to keep watching our content, there's going to be a video on screen now. What did we speak about last week? It was the relegation fights. If you want to see us talk all things relegation fight, that is there. Or head to our channel to watch loads of videos. We've spoken recently about Ruben Amorim and why he's an incredible manager and why West Ham should have gone for him. Ultimately, now they're going for Julian Lopetegui. But yeah, there's loads on our channel, so go check that out as well. That's everything for today, though. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.